Good evening, everyone. Before we get started, I'm going to provide a quick review of the technology. We have set up this meeting as a webinar, which allows us to host meetings with a larger audience. Today's webinar is being recorded and the link will be available after today's session. We welcome you to revisit the content and share it with your network. We also invite your questions. Please look at the Q&A box on your screen. If you think of a question, you can type it in there. We are planning to create an FAQ at the end of the series that addresses questions. If you're using the chat function to answer questions, please make sure that the messages are going to everyone. You can do this by opening the chat function and looking for the blue box. When you click the box, an option to chat with everyone will appear. If you are having any issues with the Zoom technology, please feel free to either chat me an email or via Zoom. Thank you.
Good evening, and welcome to Africatown and the future of Mobile, Alabama. My name is Levy D. King III, and I humbly serve as the board chairman of the Africatown Heritage Preservation Foundation. As we have shared, the purpose of this series is primarily to educate all viewers. The method of the series is to lead all participants to ask themselves questions rather than telling them what and how to think. Secondly, this series aims to engage all Africatown residents, interested persons, and organizations in seeking the answers that make sense to the group themselves. Finally, the series seeks to encourage residents of Mobile and Africatown to speak across historic lines of separation, fear, and misinformation about its future, one that works for all. Tonight's presentation will focus on community partnership. It is the 6th of the 7-part series of educational workshops delivered each Thursday. The Africatown Heritage Preservation Foundation, or AHPF, has commissioned Justice and Sustainability Associates to develop this specific series of educational presentations to help the community and help the foundation assist in building capacity within the Africatown community, and also to empower all residents and interested persons to find partnership and organization. The AHPF was founded by past and present residents of Africatown, and we are based in Mobile. The foundation's mission is to preserve and document the stories of historical Africatown and create cultural and economic transformation through education and partnerships that benefit the environment, the mankind, and the community. Justice and Sustainability Associates is an alternative dispute resolution firm that uses consensus building, facilitation, and civic engagement to achieve sustainable community development, environmental justice, and simply smart growth. Through this series, we aim to introduce all residents and interested persons to information, to perspectives, and options which we believe are relevant to developing both a shared vision for the future of Africatown and Mobile, and also neighborhoods that look like Africatown, as well as a mission that uplifts current and future residents of Mobile and neighborhoods like Africatown. It's about building capacity to support the community to make informed decisions about its own future. This slide outlines the schedule for the rest of the program. Next week will be the last workshop of this program. We will be inviting a panel of stakeholders within Africatown, as well as stakeholders that represent a larger national perspective to model the diversity of thought and leadership that can help move Africatown forward through partnership. We hope that you will continue to tune in and also invite those who you know to the final workshop to participate and attend as well. Now it is my pleasure. I'd like to introduce Sam Paz from Justice and Sustainability Associates, who will be our wonderful narrator for this evening. Again, welcome.
Good evening. Over the past 7 weeks, we have asked you to envision a future for Africatown through the lens of various community development practices and issues, such as neighborhood character, planning and zoning, land ownership, and demographics. We've asked you what your ideal Africatown would look like, how it should be developed, and which principles should guide its path forward. In this presentation, we will discuss some of the ways that your many visions can be achieved. Africatown, like many communities with deep and important histories, is filled with passionate, resourceful, and resilient residents, leaders, and advocates. First, we would like to take a moment to ask you to share what advocacy and community development efforts you think have been successful so far to helping Africatown. What is working? What is not working? When it comes to building the future of Africatown, where are efforts and initiatives focused? For example, are a lot of Africatown leaders and stakeholders focusing on tourism and telling the story of Africatown, bringing businesses to Africatown, providing health services to community members, or investing in youth programs and education or other initiatives? And then where should they be focused? Please take a second and put your thoughts in the chat when you can. Remember to drop down to everyone so that everyone can see each other's thoughts. Again, the question is, what efforts have been successful in helping Africatown, and where should future efforts be focused? So please feel free to continue to engage and interact with each other in the chat. We will move forward in the presentation. With a community and a story as important as Africatown's, and especially with the increased profile of the community after Descendant, it is inevitable that there are many actors working with various interests and various desires for the future of Africatown. When there is a lot of energy around the potential for a community, and especially when there are actors both internal and external involved, it's essential that key stakeholders are aligned in their work to ensure that their advocacy and their development efforts work to help each other reach a shared goal and not against each other to slow down or even stop forward momentum. An analogy that we like to use is if our boats are all going in the same place we do not all need to be in the same boat as long as we are all rowing in the same direction. It does not matter which strategies or resource each group uses or how big each group's boat is. We all want to get to the same destination. And people may work together and some may use their own methods, but progress forward happens when all the individual actors are moving towards the same agreed upon vision, rowing in the same direction. To effectively build a community, the people who have a stake in the future must become organized. So local organizational leaders, city and county agency representatives, educational leadership, and others. But what does an organized community look like? And what does it need? Which efforts need to be prioritized? And how well do community stakeholders communicate and work together on projects and initiatives? How are community stakeholders leveraging each other's strengths and relationships? And what skills and technical assistance does the community need to achieve its vision? To become organized, there must be some degree of collaboration. And what do we mean when we say collaboration? So good collaborative relationships are essentially created by routine interactions where people learn about each other, identify each other's expertise, each other's interests, and begin to build an essential foundation of trust and respect for each other. Collaboration comes from a recognition that we need each other to achieve a larger purpose or goal of building the community that we want. There must be an added value to partnership and collaboration. So before agreeing to any kind of partnership, everyone must first agree that there is a need and a readiness for it by asking, what benefits will be gained in collaborating? And what can we achieve together that we cannot achieve alone? All types of community collaborations have different benefits, risks, interdependencies. So to decide the best path forward for any community, it's important to understand the purpose and vision, structure, and requirements of entities contemplating collaboration. This will help you determine what level of partnership is best for your community. Collaboration and partnership can take many forms. Partnerships can be between two people who want to go into business together, or it can be between government and private entities to help fund public sector projects such as infrastructure improvements or affordable housing programs. Broadly speaking, partnerships bring together different people and groups with similar desires who want to share their ideas, resources, and knowledge. So I'd like to take a minute to go over a few different frameworks that communities may use, depending on what level of collaboration is needed and desired. Communities may decide to work together to share information and support each other for different reasons. Some reasons include access to regional or cooperative grants, to innovate and create new ideas, to distribute services and resources more effectively, or to take collective responsibility for different community needs and opportunities. So when we think about models for partnership, there are different levels and stakes that people invest in partnership. So I would say at the bottom level, we have networking. The purpose of networking is to create a central hub for information and to share opportunities and resources. In networking, roles are loosely defined and there's minimal decision-making involved. The next level up would be cooperation or alliance. The purpose of a cooperation or alliance is to limit duplication of services and to ensure that tasks are completed. It is often made up of a central body of people who communicate with the larger community and are linked by a specific goal. Often alliances are formed in response to a threat. or because of a similar shared beliefs or economic interdependence. Moving a step farther, there are coalitions. The purpose of coalitions is to share ideas and pull resources from existing systems, and they are marked by shared leadership. Coalitions are often organized around a single issue or a single event. Coalitions can be both relatively short-lived, or they could also be longer-term partnerships. And finally, there is the model of developing a durable community partnership. Community partnerships are distinct because they are often comprised of people who may not agree on everything when it comes to their community's development or growth. But through the forum of the partnership, they are able to build consensus around a shared vision and create a system to cooperatively address challenges and opportunities. Partnerships are usually formed when individual efforts cannot effectively accomplish the larger goal. And the challenges that the community is facing are inherently complex and influenced by many factors and then also many actors. Due to the nature of the decisions that need to be made, partnerships are typically comprised of both informal and formal leaders, residents, and decision makers at different levels. In our American culture, there is a strong emphasis on competition. And that encourages people and groups to work independently because it can be more profitable. The type of partnership that we'll talk about tonight recognizes that making a shift toward collaboration will require rewiring ingrained ideas and attitudes away from competition and towards cooperation. Partnerships have the capacity to address system-wide issues because they draw on all sectors, all voices, and all perspectives. Why are partnerships so important, especially for a community like Africatown? Though it will take time, partnerships build lasting, functional relationships among key stakeholders and decision makers in a community. Relationships that can increase access to information, expertise, and resources. And furthermore, partnerships have the potential to put the people who will be most influenced by a final decision at the center of the process of making those decisions. Above all, partnerships can make sure that the main actors in a community have a shared vision and a shared understanding of how each different actor plans to support the realization of that vision. So who are Africatown's partners? Think big and think wide. How do the goals and resources provided by these partners align with your vision for Africatown? Are the currently involved partners' expertise and resources being maximized and leveraged? And how do you ensure that these resources are being used to benefit Africatown? Which partners need to be engaged? We would love to see your thoughts and also for you to see each other's thoughts on this idea or this question in the chat. So if you are able to answer the question around who Africatown's partners are and think beyond, what you might normally think of within Africatown, who are the partners and who needs to be part of something that's a wider partnership that it is building a vision for Africatown. We'll take a couple seconds. So moving forward in this presentation, when we reference community partnership, we are talking specifically about multi-stakeholder forums that serve as a way to help increase collaboration in a community and to facilitate consensus-based decision-making among a group of people with a shared vision for a community. I know that's a lot of words put together, so we'll dig into each piece individually. So when considering forming a community partnership, it's important to think about what you want to create through that partnership together. While there are many more outcomes that we could list here, there are 4 primary ways in which community partnerships can provide added benefit to a community. So through a community partnership, stakeholders develop their capacity to influence decisions, and they become informed about the issues that impact them and their role in addressing those issues. Second, it is a rare forum through which people can engage in facilitated problem solving and true collaboration. There are not many forums that exist that allow us to have those collaborative decision-making conversations. Third, partnerships, while sometimes messy and complicated in their process for decision-making, can lead to win-win outcomes that have evidence-based benefits to all of those involved. And finally, partnerships provide a sustained platform for information sharing and resolving conflicts in a healthy and transparent way. So community partnerships are rooted in consensus-based decision-making. So what do I mean when I say this? Consensus-based decision-making is one method for reaching a decision in a group where that decision is supported, defended, and most of the time implemented by all members of the partnership, even if the result is not the most desired result for every individual. So this approach provides a win-win solution because through discussion of trade-offs, options, and benefits, they're able to offer different ideas, and everyone in the partnership has an opportunity to share their perspectives and determine a result that will benefit them in some way. Consensus-based processes prioritize bringing together individuals who will commit to the process and implement the decision. So recognizing that it achieves the shared vision of the group and will benefit them in some way. Community partnerships are not only opportunities to increase collaboration and information sharing among community stakeholders with a shared vision, but they are also a way to bring together groups of people that have historically been excluded from decision-making table with those that have the authority or influence to make those decisions. As we shared, the purpose of a community partnership is to provide consensus-based decisions to support the visioning of a revitalized community and the development of action plans and best practices by maintaining a forum for discussion, information sharing, and decision-making. Each community partnership is guided by a charge that directs the work and agreements that come out of the partnership. There are also ground rules and responsibilities that all members agree to follow. An important element of a successful consensus-based process is that participants commit to the behaviors and processes that lead to consensus and agreement. Another necessary role in a community partnership is that it's facilitated by an impartial facilitator who has no stake in the decisions or the outcomes determined by the community partnership. The facilitator's only objective is to ensure a fair, open, and thorough process is followed. With so many different interests at the table, An impartial facilitator resolves internal conflicts and ensures that conversations are productive, ultimately leading the partnership members to whichever decisions they agree on. Further, community partnerships include community stakeholders from various sectors. So representatives from the government, private sector, nonprofit organizations, and community members all bring valuable resources, connections, and decision-making power. And lastly, the topics that the community partnership addresses should reflect the current and future needs of the community. So which issues need the most attention and collaboration? Which types of initiatives will help Africatown grow and prosper? Developing a community partnership requires developing capacity within the community for there to be real community leadership and progress. So by setting up a community partnership, diverse voices are able to work together to create a neighborhood that benefits everyone in some way. The members of community partnerships have various roles that they play in their expertise and the groups that they represent and their decision-making power. So community partnerships typically consist of a steering committee and multiple working groups. The steering committee guides the work of the community partnership and ensures that all members understand the charge and are aligned on the objectives of the partnership. To return to our metaphor, the steering committee guides the direction that the boats are rowing towards. And then there are typically two co-chairs that set the agenda for the partnership in the meetings. They help to keep other members of the steering committee and the working groups on task. The working groups are where the actual work gets done. The people in the working groups do research, propose ideas, and have difficult conversations where trade-offs are made and consensus is built around recommendations for how to move forward. These proposed recommendations are then shared with the steering committee, which provides further insight and advice on the recommendations until the entire community partnership agrees. The topics of the working groups are typically determined based on the identified needs or issues in the community that should be addressed. For example, in Africatown, there could be many different working groups that focus on key building blocks of community development. Some of those are listed here. These are not comprehensive. There are many others that could also be possible. So the first is around infrastructure and environment. That group could assess the environmental impacts of infrastructure projects on the health and safety of the community. Another could be around tourism and business, to support economic development and sustainable business growth within Africatown, and then to maximize tourism opportunities. Another could be community and placemaking, to collaborate on plans and issues related to community building, arts and culture and education. Another could be around health and safety, to increase the neighborhood's quality of life and address mental health and other health and welfare issues. Another could be around history and education, to determine best practices for authentic storytelling and preservation of Africatown's history and culture. And another could be around youth and family, to support the healthy growth of children, youth, and their families. And finally, there could be one around engagement and communication, to create opportunities for collaboration, improved communication throughout the Africatown community. Let's look for a moment at an example of a successful long-term community partnership. This one specifically was formed to support reconciliation and memorialization. So in April 1994, human bones and artifacts from the 19th century were discovered in an abandoned well, uncovered during construction on Virginia Commonwealth University's campus in Richmond, Virginia. The well's contents consisted of the bodies of mostly African Americans that had been illegally removed from an African American burial ground to be dissected and discarded in the 1800s by medical staff. After the remains were discovered and sent to the Smithsonian for analysis, the university moved on and made no effort to address the discovery. In 2011, interest in what had happened resurfaced, so the president of the university established a community partnership called the East Marshall Street Well Planning Committee. The committee included university faculty and staff, local and state lawmakers, spiritual leaders, planners, and civil group representatives. And their task was to begin the process of reconciliation. With the help of Justice and Sustainability Associates, the Planning Committee held a series of community meetings and discussions where the university acknowledged its insensitivity during the 1994 excavation, explained what had been done to safeguard the human remains, and shared what had been learned through the forensic study. The Planning Committee helped the African American community form a family representative council and memorialization working group to symbolically represent the descendants of the unnamed individuals from the East Marshall Street well, and to make recommendations for properly memorializing and reburying the remains. As a result of the work and recommendations made by this working group, on November 25th, 2019, the Virginia University and the Richmond community welcomed back the ancestral remains from the Smithsonian Institution with respect and dignity. And through the work of this community partnership, the university was able to honor the stories of these African Americans, hear community voices, and meaningfully engage diverse perspectives. So throughout this workshop series, we have covered many topics that we hope will help you in your efforts to help Africatown grow and thrive and become the community that you envision. On that, honors the past and empowers and provides for current residents and invests in future generations to come. We have discussed how agreed upon principles are foundational to community and neighborhood development. We have explored the ways to determine the unique characteristics of a neighborhood and to protect the unique character as a community develops and changes. We've also looked at how government plans and zoning regulations provide insight to the potential development of an investment in a community. We talked about the importance of land ownership in controlling what happens in your community and the ways that community members can collectively own parts of their neighborhood. And further, we looked at how demographic data helps determine the kinds of resources and investments a community needs and deserves from local government. And tonight we have explored ways to facilitate collaboration and agreement among diverse stakeholders through partnerships. Though this is only the beginning, we hope you have come away with some of the information you may need to help move your community forward. So we ask you to answer the following. What could an Africatown community partnership achieve? And then who should be involved in a partnership and why? And here, think Africatown and beyond. As you reflect on those questions, please share in the chat your input, your thoughts, your interactions. And while you are providing your thoughts in the chat, we're going to summarize the comments that we received during last week's presentation. So here are examples of responses that we got last week from you when we asked, what is needed to attract the next generation of Africatown residents? You said the population has declined due to better opportunities out of state. The younger generation wants to see growth in Africatown. There is enough land to build in Africatown. Africatown should advertise reasons for moving there. And finally, Africatown needs united leadership based on trust and relationships and a shared vision. When we asked, what businesses do you think would thrive in Africatown? He shared the following: a cafe, Airbnb, barbershop, laundromat, neighborhood Walmart, performing arts studio, and an amphitheater, grocery store, clean industries with good paying jobs, and a health clinic, a container yard store where young professionals can meet, and a safe entertainment district. So we'll go back to the questions and give you a few more seconds to leave your responses in the chat. Okay, I think we can move on to the poll. So since the start of this workshop series, 77 individuals have attended one or more sessions. And to learn more about the individuals who are attending these workshops, we've conducted a poll every week. These are the results from last week's poll of participants. So again, most of the people who attended live in either another area of Mobile, not in Africatown, or in an area of the United States outside of Alabama. Most participants were above the age of 46, with most people above the age of 60. So to continue to understand how you all how the attendees have changed and to see who is participating today, we're going to run the same poll with a few short questions about you. You should see the poll on your screen now, and you may need to scroll down to answer all of the questions. Great, it looks like we've slowed down in our responses, so thank you. Last week, we received evaluation responses from 7 people. Then we asked to rank how well they thought the presentation improved their ability to build the community that they desired on a scale from 1 to 5. 1 person responded 2, 1 person responded 3, 4 people responded 4, and 1 person responded 5. So the link to this week's evaluation is now being dropped into the chat. So this week, to help provide time now for you all to help to fill it out, we will pause for a couple of minutes to allow you some time to complete the survey. The survey will only take a minute, and it will help us make sure that we're paying attention to what you've said during the presentations over the past 6 weeks, and inform and continue to inform this workshop and ideally workshops moving forward. So as a reminder, we'll be creating an FAQ, or frequently asked questions, from these workshops. So please take a minute to fill out the survey.
The board of directors and myself invite everyone tonight to learn more about the Africatown Heritage Preservation Foundation. To do so, we welcome and invite you to please contact us by using this link. A few events and happenings that I have the pleasure of sharing with everyone on this evening that the foundation is facilitating throughout our community. In addition to these great workshops that we've delivered over the last 6 weeks, it is my pleasure to call your attention to several other initiatives and events happening in Africatown in the community this month. The first is the Foundation's 2023 Africatown Summer Swim Program. This is a 6-week program which will introduce participants ages 5 to adult to the basics of swimming and provide them with the skills to become strong, confident swimmers. Registration will be open until tomorrow, Friday, June the 23rd. So we encourage you to move forward with your registration and join in this wonderful initiative. You can contact us for more information at africatownswim@gmail.com, africatownswim@gmail.com, or register by using the link that has been placed in the chat below. Also, tickets to visit the Africatown Heritage House are now available at www.clotilda.com/visit-us/. The museum will be opening on July the 8th, for which I know that we're all excited and anticipating to see. And it will feature an exhibition on the Clotilda and the 110 men, women, and children ferried by the ship. Lastly, again, thank you all for being here on this evening. My name is Levy King, and on behalf of the Board of Directors, it is my pleasure to thank you for spending time with us over the last 6 weeks. If you attended this workshop, we would like to ask you that you would invite people who you believe would benefit from this information to our final workshop. Again, our final workshop next week. If you are inclined to do so, please invite them to RSVP by emailing info@meetviavideo.com, info@meetviavideo.com, or simply by calling 251-216-1661. Again, 251-216-1661. Again, my name is Levy D. King III. I humbly serve as the board chairman for the board of directors for the Africatown Heritage Preservation Foundation. And on behalf of our board of directors and our staff and our team, we thank you for your time tonight. We thank you for your time in past presentations and visits. And we also want to thank you in advance for joining us for our final session this upcoming Thursday. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.